I married a man I didn't love just because my parents said, "A good man won't make a girl wait too long." A seemingly harmless phrase, a piece of advice from the people I respected most, ended up dictating an entire life, leading to deeper consequences than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just an invisible chain binding me to a loveless marriage. It was a sentence for a soul yearning for true connection. No passionate kisses, no declarations of love that truly made my heart flutter, no hugs that truly made me feel safe. There was only a quiet family dinner, the urging pressured gazes from my parents, and a soulless nod like a verdict signed before the trial even began, a path I was forced to take, though I never wanted to. Her name was Mia. We met through relatives, an arranged relationship painted with societal expectations and prejudices. We met a few times at dull dinners where trivial small talk masked the emptiness in our souls. Mia was sweet, gentle, and agreeable by all standards of a well-behaved girl, an ideal daughter-in-law in the eyes of the elders. But I never felt anything beyond politeness, a distant, cold formality. There was no flutter, no curiosity to explore. If anyone asked me my first impression of Mia, I would say, "She's quiet." A silence so profound I couldn't find an echo in my own soul, a silence I mistakenly thought was comfortable. And perhaps it was that very silence, that lack of demanding much, that made me think, marrying her will be safe. Safe, a beautiful-sounding word, yet it was a poison that killed all emotions, all desires for love. I'm not a bad person. I didn't cheat, didn't fool around, never did anything against my conscience. I always tried to be a good person, a dutiful child, a trustworthy friend. I just didn't love. A raw and painful truth, a burden I carried on my own shoulders, burying my own feelings. At that time, my family started talking a lot about settling down, about starting a family. Stories about friends and relatives getting married and having children bombarded me daily like relentless alarms. My mother often repeated, her voice full of worry, mixed with a hint of urgency, "All your friends are married, what are you waiting for? How long do you plan to make your parents wait?" And my father would quietly add, but his words were heavy as lead, full of pressure. "A man has to take care of his family, he has to fulfill his duties. Don't let a girl miss her prime." The pressure mounted like an undertow, little by little, drowning me in helplessness, leaving me unable to breathe, to think for myself. I didn't resist, didn't refuse, because I was too tired to fight against my family's expectations, against societal prejudices. I just thought, well, it's time. Time to end this boring single lifetime, to fulfill my duty as a son, so my parents can be at ease. Mia didn't react much either. She accepted everything with a resigned acquiescence, which made me even more confused. I didn't know if she agreed because she loved me or for some other reason. Maybe she was also under family pressure. Maybe she also thought I was a safe option, just like I thought of her. Perhaps for her, I was just theoretically suitable, stable job. Gentle, potentially a good husband, a reliable partner to lean on for the rest of her life. A safe harbor. We got married like two people who understood what should be done, what society accepted, but never asked ourselves what was right for us. What would bring true happiness? What would bring peace to our hearts? On our wedding day, I wasn't nervous, not excited. I just felt exhausted, utterly drained, as if I had just completed a long, arduous journey. Mia looked beautiful in her white dress. She was stunning like a fairy tale princess, every feature perfect, but her eyes were distant, unfocused, devoid of any happiness. I wore a suit, stood next to her, trying to smile at the right moment, posing for photos, raising toasts, performing every action of an exemplary groom. Everyone congratulated us. Our families beamed, friends teased, laughter and music reverberated throughout the reception hall, creating a frighteningly lively atmosphere, a perfectly fake picture. Only two people at the wedding were not truly there. Mia and I. We were like two actors performing a perfect play, a meticulously staged drama to please the audience, but our hearts were empty, numb, leaving only emptiness and an indescribable sadness. We went home in silence. The house was lavishly decorated, but there was no warmth, only a pervasive coldness. Our wedding night was neither awkward nor passionate. Just two people lying next to each other trying to sleep, each turned away from the other, immersed in their own worlds, as if they were in the wrong place. But no one dared to speak. No one dared to break that terrifying silence. No one dared to face the truth. Our married life began with a false sense of peace, a frightening calm, a veil covering the brutal truth of a loveless marriage. Mia was a good wife by all societal standards. She cooked, kept the house neat and tidy, called my mother every weekend, attentive to every small detail. She didn't complain when I came home late from work, wasn't angry when I forgot anniversaries, didn't ask many questions when I wasn't in the mood to talk. She accepted everything stoically, like a faint shadow in my life, a quiet and patient shadow. As for me, I also tried to be a decent husband. I bought flowers on special occasions, though I didn't know if she liked them. I fixed leaky faucets, changed light bulbs, paid bills on time. I fulfilled all my duties as a husband, a son-in-law, but I didn't realize that I was hurting her with that very indifferent kindness, with my very apathy, with the absence of true love. We were an ideal couple from the outside, but the reality was we lived like two housemates, strangers, bound by a marriage certificate. Some evenings I sat watching meaningless TV shows. Mia sat reading, creating her own world where she could escape reality. No one spoke. There were no arguments, no debates, and no laughter, no intimate conversations, no shared moments, just an endless silence. We still went out to dinner together, still went to the supermarket, still visited both families. Everything followed a pre-programmed script without any spontaneity. Everything was monotonous and boring. But when we entered the bedroom, each turned away from the other, falling into a cold sleep, carrying our own thoughts, unspoken sorrows. One day, seeing a couple holding hands in the park, their eyes full of happiness, their smiles radiant, Mia sighed softly, a sigh full of regret, full of longing for something she didn't have. They looked so close. I didn't know how to respond. I just stayed silent because I didn't know what to say. And that was the distance between us. Silence was the easiest choice, a way for us to escape the harsh truth, to avoid confronting ourselves, to avoid facing the emptiness in this relationship. A year after we got married, our families started asking, their voices full of longing, sometimes urging, "When are you having kids? How long do you plan to make your parents wait for grandchildren? Youth can't wait forever." Mia forced a smile, a twisted, awkward smile. I just bowed my head, not daring to look into her eyes. We had never talked about children, never thought about having a child when we hadn't truly connected with each other, hadn't truly understood each other, hadn't truly built a proper family, a solid foundation for a tiny new life. One thing I learned after marrying without love: peace doesn't mean happiness, and sometimes no arguments occur, not because two people understand each other, but because both have stopped trying to understand, stopped trying to nurture, stopped trying to fight for love, stopped trying to connect. Mia began to change in the second year of our marriage. Not loudly, not suddenly. She just gradually stopped asking me what I wanted to eat, stopped calling to remind me to come home early, stopped making coffee for me in the morning as before. Those small habits that were once our connecting threads had now snapped. Instead, she left the house earlier, came home later, regularly attended art workshops, pottery classes, painting lessons at a new cultural center near our home. She found joy elsewhere, not by my side, not in this marriage. She found her own world where she could be herself. She started laughing more, but not with me. Her laughter now was radiant, free, full of life, but it made me feel like a stranger, as if I was looking at a completely different person, someone I had never known, someone living a parallel life to mine. I noticed once when she returned from a painting class, an unfinished painting in her hand with free emotional brushstrokes, an abstract painting with many bright colors. I asked, trying to show interest though my heart felt nothing. Just a polite question, "That's a beautiful painting. Did you paint it yourself?" She nodded. Her eyes lit up. The first time in a long time I had seen that look, the look of someone living their passion, finding true joy. "The art teacher is really nice. No pressure, just paint your true emotions. He said art is liberation, not obligation." I nodded, a faint smile. Not out of jealousy, but because I realized I had never helped her feel any true emotion, never brought her true joy, never touched her soul. I had been an indifferent husband, had missed too much. We still ate dinner together, but meals were no longer a place for conversation, but more like a duty to be fulfilled, a meaningless obligation. She often ate quickly, then got up, went to read, listened to podcasts or video call friends, people who could understand and share with her. I did the same, working on my laptop until late, then crashing to sleep. We lived side by side, yet were more distant than anyone, like two islands drifting on the sea, never touching each other. Hugs became less frequent, kisses on the cheek also stopped. Both tried to avoid intimate contact because it only further revealed the emptiness, the coldness in the relationship. The house was large but devoid of any warmth of love. One evening, I woke up in the middle of the night. Mia wasn't in the room. A sense of unease crept into my heart, a vague fear. I went out and saw the kitchen light on. She was sitting at the dining table looking out the window, her eyes distant as if searching for something, an escape for herself, her own path. "Can't you sleep?" I asked. Mia turned around. Her voice was soft, full of weariness, full of lostness, like a sigh from the depths of her heart. "Yeah, I feel lost. Lost in my own life. Lost in this house, lost in this marriage. I don't know where I'm going anymore." I sat down opposite her, said nothing. I didn't know what to say anymore. All words seemed meaningless, all efforts became hopeless. After a while, she looked up straight into my eyes, a look full of suffering, full of despair, but also full of courage. "Do you regret marrying me?" The question choked me. I was honest because I knew I couldn't pretend any longer, couldn't continue to deceive myself and her. "I don't know." Mia nodded. No anger, no blame, just a painful acceptance, an acceptance of fate. I'm not sure if I was ever truly ready either, or just trying to do what adults thought was right. Maybe we were both victims of expectations of societal prejudices. We got stuck. The next day, she left a note on the kitchen table, an unannounced farewell, a release for both of us, a definitive break. "I'll be staying with a friend for a few days. I need to know if I'm still someone beyond the title Brian's wife, if I have another life." I didn't stop her, didn't text. I just looked at the empty house and wondered, when did we start losing each other? When did the invisible thread connecting us break? Then I suddenly realized we never truly had each other. We were just two strangers living under one roof, bound by social definitions, by a meaningless marriage certificate. I once thought I would never love Mia. I still believed our marriage was a quiet agreement. We both chose to be kind to each other, and time would do the rest, would heal the cracks, would ignite the flame of love. I didn't feel happy, but I thought not being miserable was enough. A terrifyingly mistaken notion, an excuse for my own cowardice, an escape from reality. But Mia's absence in this house made me realize she was more present than I thought. The void she left was like a giant hole in my life, a gap that nothing could fill. In the morning, no more ready-made coffee, no more smell of breakfast. In the evening, no more gentle scraping of a chair at the dining table, no more sound of Mia turning pages of her book, no more sound of her whispering trivial stories. No more question, "Have you eaten yet?" Even though she knew I had a trivial question that still carried a hint of care, a little warmth. The house seemed bigger, suffocatingly vast. Quieter, a silence so profound I could hear my own heartbeat, the ticking of the clock. Colder, a coldness seeping into every corner of the house and into my soul. I started to look back at the small moments, like the time Mia added extra sauce to my favorite dish without asking, or the time she shielded me from getting wet when we both forgot our umbrella. Small actions I had never noticed before now stood out clearly like slow-motion films, every detail tormenting me, every detail filled with regret. At the time, I didn't see anything. I was too oblivious, too immersed in my own world, too busy with work, with meaningless things. Now I see a person who tried to love me in the gentlest way with all her heart, a woman who deserved to be loved, and I didn't realize it. I was too indifferent, too apathetic, too cowardly to face my own feelings. I searched through the bedside drawer, found a small notebook belonging to Mia, a diary recording her emotions, the sorrows she couldn't express, the dreams she never fulfilled. She still kept the habit of journaling, not every day, but enough to show she was living, going through sad days, trying to find meaning in life, struggling with herself. There was a page that read like this, the handwriting still clear but carrying a profound sadness, a sigh from the depths of her heart, a gentle reproach. "I don't blame him for not loving me. I'm just sad that I waited too long for a real look from the man I call my husband. I spent my youth waiting for something that would never come. Perhaps I should find my own happiness." I read that line over and over, then closed the notebook. For the first time, my heart truly ached. A bone-deep pain, a belated regret, an irreplaceable sense of loss, a harsh awakening. 2 weeks after Mia left, I called her, my voice trembling, filled with a fragile hope, a last glimmer of hope for a second chance. "Can I see you?" Mia was silent for a few seconds, as if weighing her options, struggling internally. Then she answered, her voice devoid of any emotion, only a terrifying calm. "Okay." We met at the small coffee shop near the library, where I first took her on a date after our families introduced us, where fake memories began, where I once thought would be the start of a happy life. She arrived 5 minutes late, her hair neatly tied back, her face delicate, but her eyes were different, freer, more peaceful. She was like a bird just released from its cage, freed from restraints, from the burden of a loveless marriage. I asked, my voice full of worry, full of remorse, "Are you okay?" She nodded. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like myself. I'm no longer someone's shadow. I've found joy in small things, in art." I looked down at my coffee, then into her eyes, my gaze filled with regret, with helplessness. "I'm sorry, Mia, for not truly being there throughout our time together. I was thoughtless, I didn't understand you. I missed too much." She listened in silence, but her eyes held no affection, only understanding and acceptance, like an unspoken forgiveness. I continued my words, tearing at my heart, every single one. Carrying regret, remorse. I thought being kind was enough, but kindness isn't love, and I now realize what I've lost. I lost you, lost my own happiness, lost the chance to love and be loved in return. My voice trembled slightly. Not out of fear, but because for the first time I genuinely wanted to hold on to someone, wanted to cling to something that no longer belonged to me, something I had lost due to my own carelessness. Mia placed her hand on the table. Didn't touch me, just said, her voice gentle but heavy, like a final judgment, an undeniable truth. Brian, I waited for that sentence, for a very long time. Maybe my whole life. She looked straight at me, her eyes devoid of any affection, only resolve, firmness, and unshakable decision. But when it came, I wasn't the person who waited for it anymore. I've changed. I've found my own path. I've learned to love myself more. We sat for a while longer, said nothing. That silence was more painful than any reproach. It was the clearest evidence of the breakdown of the end. Then she stood up. Thank you for finally telling the truth. You helped me find liberation. I hope you find your own happiness too. I asked a final desperate question, a fragile glimmer of hope. Can we start over? She shook her head, gently, painlessly, as if releasing both of us, releasing this relationship. I think if we started over, we'd just repeat ourselves. Because love doesn't come from effort, it comes from freedom. And our marriage never had that. We were wrong from the beginning and it can't be fixed anymore. Then she turned and walked away. Didn't look back. As if she had left everything behind without a trace of regret, without a lingering thought. I sat for a long time in the old coffee shop. Outside it started to rain softly. Each raindrop felt like salt in my wound. Each tear I swallowed mingling with the bitter taste of coffee. It was then I understood some people come into our lives not to stay, but to teach us something, to leave a valuable lesson, a lesson I had to pay for with my entire marriage. And unfortunately, the truest feelings sometimes come too late. We had no clear reason for divorce. No one cheated, no one betrayed, no arguments, no actively hurting each other. It was simply that we had been silent too long to fall in love, too long to understand each other, too long to save a relationship that died in its infancy, dead from my own indifference. My life continued after Mia left, but it lacked something I couldn't name. The empty house, meals alone, long sleepless nights. I started to reflect on myself, on the mistakes I had made. I focused on work, trying to fill the void with new projects, long meetings. But the more I worked, the emptier I felt. Everything went on in a bland loop until one day a shocking event hit me like a lightning bolt, shaking my entire world. It was a Friday afternoon when I was at the office. My phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice was trembling, choked with tears. Brian, your father, he's gone. My heart stopped. My whole world crumbled around me. My father, the strict man who always loved and guided my life, the one who had urged me to get married, was now gone forever. I couldn't believe it. Everything happened too fast, too suddenly. I rushed to the hospital. My mother sat there, stunned, her hair disheveled. And beside her, another woman was quietly holding and comforting her. It was Mia. Mia! I was stunned. She was here even after we had separated. She was with my mother in her most difficult hour, something I, her only son, couldn't do. Mia saw me. Her eyes remained calm, but there was a shared understanding, a deep empathy. She said nothing, just gave a slight nod, like a greeting without words. I felt a warmth from her, a warmth I had missed for too long. My father's funeral took place during days of pouring rain. Mia stayed by my mother's side throughout, helping with everything, taking care of things more thoughtfully than I did. She wasn't just an ex-wife. She was a family member, a daughter-in-law my parents had always cherished. Looking at her, I remembered the old days when she was still my wife, still caring for my family with all her heart. I remembered my father's words, Mia is a gentle, thoughtful girl. You must appreciate her. That night, after everyone had left, only my mother and I remained with my father's photograph. My mother whispered, Mia, that girl is truly good. She stayed with me the whole time. More than you, Brian. My mother's words were like a knife stabbing my heart. I painfully realized that in the moments my father needed me most, when my mother needed a shoulder to lean on, I was indifferent, lost in my own world. And Mia, the one I had once neglected, was there. My father's death and Mia's presence at the funeral was the biggest twist in my life. It wasn't just the loss of a loved one, but a sudden awakening to the values I had overlooked, to the people I had not appreciated. I realized that even without passionate love, Mia was a wonderful woman, a sincere partner, and I had lost her through my own indifference. After the funeral, Mia stayed a few more days to comfort my mother. We had a few more short conversations, not about love, but about life, about loss. I saw that she had matured a lot. Her eyes no longer held sadness, but instead calmness and strength. We divorced in silence. No court, no lawyers needed, no property disputes. Everything was simply brutally divided in half as if this marriage had never contained any emotions, just a meaningless, lifeless contract. I signed first. The pen had blue ink, Mia's favorite color, the color of hope, now stained with separation, the color of an end. When I handed her the paper, she looked at the document for a moment, her eyes distant, then signed. No questions, no hesitation, as if this was what she had been waiting for a very long time, a release from shackles. "I thought I'd cry," she said. Light as a breath, a release from burden and acceptance. I replied, "I thought I wouldn't regret it." We both laughed, neither sad nor happy. Just a laugh to acknowledge we tried. But we were wrong from the start, an unfixable mistake, a mistake that stole the youth of both of us. That evening, Mia came to pack her things. I helped her fold clothes box books. She took the paintings she had done. I had never really looked closely. They were all images of empty rooms, a person sitting with their back turned, or a solitary bowl of rice on a table, paintings filled with sadness and loneliness, unspoken self-narratives. "Did you paint these while living here?" I asked, my voice full of regret, full of sorrow. She nodded. Each frame was a day. I wondered if we were truly husband and wife, if we were deceiving ourselves. Before leaving, Mia stood by the door for a moment. No hug, no handshake. She just said, her voice serene with no lingering attachment. A final farewell. "I don't hate you, Brian. I once hoped I could love you and be loved by you, but perhaps we weren't meant for each other. I've found my own path." I replied, my words belated and bitter, the most honest confession of my life. "I think I did love you, but maybe it came too late." She smiled softly, a smile full of forgiveness, full of understanding and acceptance of fate. Late love. Sometimes it's like a late train. Even if it arrives at the station, the person who needed to leave has already departed. And sometimes taking a different train is the best thing for both. Then she turned and walked out the door that was once her way home. The door of a marriage that had ended, the door of a chapter of life that had closed. The house was completely different after Mia left. No scent from the kitchen, no small slippers by the door, no sound of water running when she watered the plants on the balcony. Everything was empty, cold. A pervasive loneliness enveloped me. I lived there for a few more months, changed nothing, just to get used to the fact I was truly alone, facing loneliness alone, learning to accept the truth, to accept what was lost. A year after the divorce, I received a card from Mia, not to boast about anything, simply an invitation to her first solo art exhibition, an invitation from someone who had found her own path, had found happiness in art. I went, didn't call ahead, wasn't even sure if she wanted me to come. The exhibition room was small, cozy. There was a painting in the center, two chairs facing each other, one empty like a haunting emptiness, but now carrying a different meaning, the meaning of a new beginning. The plaque beneath read like a self-narrative, a lesson she had learned from her life. If it had arrived on time, it might have been a different story, but sometimes missing a train opens up a new path, a path to freedom and true happiness. Mia saw me. We nodded in greeting, didn't speak, but in that gaze, I saw forgiveness and closure, a chapter ended, a peace found. On the way home, I thought, some people come into our lives not to stay, but to teach us something. Mia wasn't the woman I initially loved, but she was the one who taught me the most valuable lesson about love. Love doesn't come from obligation. It comes from freedom, and it can only survive if nourished by sincerity. I started to change my life. I sold the old house, the house full of sad memories, and moved to a smaller, cozier apartment. I started dedicating time to my hobbies, things I had neglected for so long because I was too busy chasing other people's expectations. I learned to play the guitar, joined a book club, and even signed up for a cooking class. I no longer rushed into finding love, no longer put pressure on myself. I believe that when you live true to yourself, happiness will find you. I visited my mother regularly, spent more time with her, making up for my shortcomings. And then one day at a small art exhibition I happened to visit, I met a woman. She was standing in front of an abstract painting, her eyes gleaming with fascination. She turned to me and smiled. "Do you understand what this painting is saying?" The question strangely felt incredibly familiar. I smiled. "I'm not sure, but I like the feeling it gives." That's how we started. No rush, no pressure, just two kindred spirits, two people who had experienced heartbreak, now searching for peace and true happiness. I'm no longer afraid of love because I've learned that love can only thrive if it's nourished by freedom and sincerity. My story ends here. It's a cautionary tale, a reminder that sometimes seemingly safe choices lead to profound loneliness and regret. I once thought that false peace was enough, but I was wrong. Love cannot be forced, cannot be created from obligations or others' arrangements. It requires sincerity, freedom, and the complete presence of two hearts, of two kindred souls. If you're in a relationship where silence overshadows all emotions, if you're living in a loveless marriage, stop and ask yourself, am I truly happy, or am I trying to please others and losing myself? Don't let external pressures dictate your life. Don't let regret come too late. Don't let yourself live a life without love. Be true to your feelings, bravely pursue what your heart tells you, no matter how difficult the path. Because sometimes the greatest liberation comes from accepting the truth, no matter how painful, and daring to let go to find true happiness. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story resonated with you, or if you have similar thoughts or experiences, please leave a comment below. I'd love to read your shares to know that I'm not alone on this journey to find love and happiness. Don't forget to like this video to support me, share it with friends and family. If you think this story can help them, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future stories, and turn on notifications to receive the latest updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.